So, just a quick brush up on what we did last week. So, I will go through this slide one after the other. Before we continue, just a quick reminder. So, automation testing requires consistent practice. So, I will just advise us at least for 1 hour or 30 minutes every day, try to do something on automation testing. If it is trying to launch the web driver that we tried out last week, you can try that out on your own, see if it is something you can do on your own. Then as for Java, you also try to practice as much as possible, because the fact is it requires consistency. And also, learning a new language also requires practicing a whole lot, especially Java, right? So let's continue. So I will give a brief summary of what we did in the next 10 minutes, and then we will jump on today's work. So we said that Selenium is an open source automation tool, and we said that it supports different operating system, while it also supports different languages. Though it was built on C++, it supports Java, C Sharp, Ruby, Python, PHP, Perl, and so on. Then we gave an architecture of how the Selenium WebDriver works. We said you have the Selenium client library, which operates with JSON and then drives your WebDriver, all right? The WebDriver app that you install, that you downloaded to your ID, if you remember, in the folder drivers, and then it drives your actual your actual browser that is already installed on your system, right? So that is how it works. We also talked about the setting your own path, which a lot of us did already in class. um, yeah, so we covered that. Then the next is creating a Maven project. So if you recall last week, we were able to create a Maven project, all right? We started off by saying create a new project. However, we selected Maven as the project, say Java and Maven as the kind of project we were to create, right? And after that, we went to our pom.xml, that by default gets created, and then we tried adding dependency. The only dependency we needed as our last week was Selenium Java client, and of course we have it here, Selenium Java 4.10 version. Alright, then we also went back and created a we created a package called base inside the Java folder, the Java test folder, all right, and then we created the class open browser. So meaning that we just want to launch our browser by connecting it to the Chrome driver. So we have the web driver that we used and the parts where it is installed, all right. So this helps us to just launch the browser. After that, we talked about the data operations. We were supposed to clearly discuss just data operations and data type. However, we eventually discussed object, all right, and scanner object. So we talked about scanner object as the library in Java that helps to take in input and display output to the user. All right, we talked about creating methods that require taking in parameters, all right, or argument, call it parameters or arguments. We talked about the constructor. This is a constructor. We also spoke about objects generally, all right. So that was what we discussed last week. However, this week I've tried to brush up on I've tried to create a very good presentation. so that the flow will be all right. I think somebody is in now. Okay, so however, this week I'll try to create something that can be much well understood. Okay, so we talked about functions, modifier, return type, argument, and so on. Let me check, is our class complete? Okay. I think the other lady said, is it Adoni? Yeah, she said she will be late or so we can just jump right in. Okay, so we also talked about the structure of the main method, how it looks like, and why we write it the way we write it: public, static, void, main. All right. So this is how it always look like. Say public means that the function is accessible globally across all the program. Static means without creating the object of a class, you can access the method. Void is a return type that means that you don't return any value. And main is the function. Main in the function can be called by JVM and string argument in the command line argument. All right. So we talked about this. All right. Now, the next thing we are to talk about is data operations and methods. So we were supposed to talk clearly on this, and now we are diving into it fully. If you look at my presentation here, I have the modulus operator. Let's go to the picture here. We have arithmetic operator, which is a common one that you use every day: the plus, the addition, the subtraction, the multiplication, division, and the modulus. We also have the unary operators, that is the increment and the decrement, the relational operators, and then the logical operators. All right. So when you are performing any logical program using any of this, you call it data operations. Alright, when you execute any program using any of this, you call it what? Data operations. Now, for you to make use of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and modulus, how do you go about it? Alright, so here I made use of modulus. Modulus is sort of different from other what's the name? Okay, I make use of division, make use of modulus. Okay, so I will share my screen and we'll talk about modulus. Where is my? So you might not need to open your IDE. Let's just follow along. Okay, or let me just use the data operations class that I already have here. Okay, if you recall, we talked about the package. We have the package that is by default there just because we created package base. So by the time you create your class, you have your package base standing right here. Right, then you also have your public class, you give it a name. All right, we already have data operations. All right, and then we have all of this. However, I am going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. Okay, I'm going to remove all of this. Okay, so let's start with the modulus operator. Can you all see my screen? Okay, great. Okay, so the modulus operator, we have, we talked about some and some when you declare your, did I talk about declaring variables and initialization? Okay, if I didn't talk about it, I think I have it here already written. Okay, let me do that. I have it somewhere here. Mm, okay. Okay, so this is it. Let me start all over from here. So we talked about Java. No, let's start here. So declaring variables and assignments. All right. So variables is like when you declare variables, it's like you are creating a storage space in the memory of your system. All right. So you are creating a storage space. When I say string first name, yeah, I identified that the first name that this storage space first name we take is going to be of a string value. That is what it means. And I say string last name, the storage space that this last name we take is going to be of a string value. And then I have int hour, int minutes. Okay, so we know that hour will be like number, right? Maybe 12.00 or 12 or 3 p.m. or something. So it is an integer. Your last name is in what? Is in words, is a word, or it has different characters combined together. But because in Java you have char, you have string. Char is saying just a single character or just a single letter. In English, letter is like one. Okay, so we have that as char, that is character, and we have string as combination of char. All right, combination of letters is what your string. So your string can be just one word or group of words. All right, so now we said if you are writing it as just string last name, int hour, int minute, and all of that, it means you are just declaring your variables. You are declaring your variables. Now when you're talking about assigning, all right, it means that you are giving it a value. So we are saying that string message or string last name equals to, then you put it inside, what is the name of this thing? Inverted, is it um, quotations, right? You put it inside quotations and you say Temitope Oyedemi. String message equals to Temitope Oyedemi, right? Or Temitope, whichever one. We said string is a word or combination of words. So we also have int hour equals to. So assigning value is what we call assignment, like equal to something is assignment. Declaring your variables, you just put it there without giving it any value. Then when you are to print, okay, so let's just do something. Let's say you just want to print hello world. In fact, this is where we were supposed to start from last week. So let's say print hello world. Print hello world. Okay, so we have something like this. We want to print an hello world. All right, you have your main method. The only thing you need here is just your main method to be able to print hello world. You say system dot out dot what, print line. What line are we printing? Hello world. All right, so if you do this and you run it, you will have hello world printed to the console, right? You have hello world. Hello world is what? Some set of strings. Now assume that you want to declare the string first by saying string what now? String hello equals to hello world. Okay, equals to hello world. String hello equals to hello world. What then should we print out? Someone tell me. What should be here? Remember, you want to print out hello world. Alright, what will be here will be what? This thing which we call the variable here. Alright, so when we say the variable here, you assign value of this to this variable here. meaning that at the end of the day, hello world becomes your hello. Alright, so hello one becomes your what? Hello. So you print out, okay, I have to make this static in order to do that. Okay, so hello words becomes your hello, and by the time you print it out, you have, oh sorry, I think I clicked something else. You have hello world. All right. Okay, so we talked about static, and somebody remind me what this static is doing here. Anyone? Hello, are we there? Are we in class? Yeah, someone should tell me. Were you able to practice during the week? Busola, I'll call him now. Yeah, good morning. Okay, okay. Okay, so what static here is doing is to help hello world to be loaded once to this string storage. So we made sure that this storage space called hello. Okay, I thought someone said something. Okay, so we made sure that the storage space, this string storage space called hello, we made sure that hello world is what is loaded straight off to it. That is what static is doing here. All right, so specifically we are saying that hello world belongs to hello, and so when you want to put it in here, system.out, when you want to print it to your console, it immediately just grabs what hello world and print it out here. All right, so static are different minutes in different contexts. Sometimes your static in your class is different from your static in your methods, so we explain more when we get to um objects, I mean OOP and so on. All right, so what we are talking about is printing string words to the console. Okay, so we also have int, right? There's also int. We said int maybe int my time, int my time equals, what should we make this, equals 12. So if I say int my time equals to 12, then I want to print out what is the time now. Alright, so how do I print that out? Recall we talked about declaring the variables and assigning values to the variables. So what I have done here is to assign 12 to what? To time. Alright, now I want to print it out and say system.out.println. Okay, so what am I printing? My time, right? I'm printing my time. I'm printing. Always pay attention to the suggestions you have here. So it means that I have to also make this static. If I don't make it that, I'm going to return an error. It's going to return an error on my console. So what is my time? 12. Alright, another thing I can do is, if I want to make it double, recall what double is. Can somebody remind me double? We talked about double. Double means that it carries decimal points. Alright, so this is not carrying decimal point, but I want you to carry decimal point. I can say static double my time is what? Is 12 o'clock. Alright, so when I come here and I run it, it will give me what? Okay, it's carrying just 0. Okay, another thing I can do is to turn this into a string. All right, that means I'm going to change this to what? Okay, we've not gotten to this part where we talk about different string method. All right, so I won't talk about it. I won't talk about it for now. I think I have that covered in my PowerPoint. Okay, there's nothing there actually. You just package this, and then we're just trying to talk about declaring variables and assigning variables to them, and also printing their values to the console. That's all I've been talking about here. All right, now um so it's just a brief recap on what we did last week. So we are still on it. We all talked about scanner class, right? And we said for you to be able to ask a user to input any value to the console, you have to consider the scanner class, meaning that you have to import it. All right, we have import.java.ot.scanner, and then after you've imported it, then you have to declare it. Scanner in or scanner equals to what? New scanner. And by default you have what? System.in. If you recall, let's go back to what we did. I don't know if this is the scanner. Okay, this is the scanner we did the other time. We said import java.ode.scanner. Then we talked about um, declaring the scanner object. You know, after doing that, after initializing your scanner object, then you can now make use of it and assign your values to the scanner object. All right, and then you can print. What are you printing? Oh, welcome Temitope, enter your age. So when I enter my age, when you say enter your age, it means that you have to show the line where I will enter my age. So this next line will say, okay, this is where you will enter your age to scanner.next int or next, and then scanner.next line. All right, so these are just if you go through it, if you practice it from the URL I sent to you, you will understand it better. However, there are still a lot of things to cover, so we have to move on. So I talked about int. We have float, double is under float. We have char, which is like one character. We have boolean, which is true or false. So we get there. All right, so those are the primitive data types we have. All right, let's move on. Okay, so in case you don't remember this, we talked about the object last week. It's just an intro to object, but when you get to OP you understand it better. But it's better that we even introduced it last week, that objects is always passed on as argument to functions, and then you execute it. All right, so we will talk about that when we get to OOP. Okay, so this is what I wanted to discuss with you the other time. That is arithmetic operators, arithmetic operations like addition, subtraction, what's the name again? Addition, subtraction, modulus, division, right? So, but in this example, I only put division and modulus because they are a little bit different, modulus especially. All right, so I will come back here and talk about modulus. All right, okay, so I can say that integer a equals to 12. All right, if I say integer a is equals to 12, it means I have assigned the value of 12 to a. All right, then I say integer b equals to 2. Then find the modulus of c. If integer c equals to a modulus b. All right, So this is what we are doing. We are looking for C. We said integer a equals to 12, integer b equals to 2, and we need the modulus of C. So normally modulus, what modulus does is it gets the remainder of your division. Alright, you know division, we just say, okay, if you are doing division, you say 12 divided by 2 will give us 6. So if it is division, let's do division too. Int C equals to a divided by b. Let's call this one, it will not be C. Why? Because C is already occupying, a modulus B is already occupying C, so you have to give it another, let's say it is D. Alright, now you want to find the value of C, you want to find the value of D. So normally if you are doing it manually on your own, you will know that by the time you divide 12 by 2, you should have a remainder of 0. And then by the time you divide 12 by 2, you should have what? 6. In mathematics, that is the normal result, right? Now if you now want to, like execute this, you have your main method here. You just say system.out. Okay, your print line, what do you want to print? You want to print the result C, modulus C. So I can say modulus result, okay, is equals to, remember our concatenation, okay, modulus of C is equals to, what do we have here? C. Alright, so what is the error here? Let's look at it. Make it static. Okay, now we have, okay, that means if I make C static, I will have to make A and B static. So at the end of the day, I have print the modulus result, or the modulus result should be what? 0. Alright, now modulus result is what? 0. Now you want to print, so that is what? Modulus operator. Alright, now for division operator, you can also do the same thing. Say okay, so you say division result is what? Okay, this is D. I have not made this static. Okay, now we have modulus operator is 0, division operator is what? Is 6. Alright, so by default you know that is correct, right? If you divide 12 by 2, you have 6, and if you do A modulus B, you have 0. That is how. So if you want to do addition, it is the same thing. You want to do subtraction, is the same. So let's say you want to do addition. Let me put it after A. The addition operator. So I can say A equals what am I adding now? 12, that's A plus B. So you just say A plus B. A plus B should be what? What should A plus B be? 14. Then if you want to do subtraction, so let's assume you want to remove B from A. Alright, it should be a negative value, so let's see what we get. So you say B from A b from a. If you say b from a, that is 2 minus 12, which is like your minus 10, right? Okay, now, so we say print out what am I printing out? I will print out e. I will print out e is what? Addition. Then I'll print out f. Okay. So let's do that. So can you see? Modular result is 0, division result is 6, addition result is 14, and oh, I didn't change this. This should be what? Subtraction result. Subtraction result is minus 10. Alright, so those are that's what we have: modulus, division, addition, and subtraction. Run it again. Okay, so we have modulus, division, addition, and subtraction. Alright, so that is for that. Then here we also talk about methods. Now, after talking about data operations, I'm moving on to methods. We talked a little bit about methods last week when we talked about creating methods that takes in parameters, if you recall. Now, here we have a brush up on it too again, just so we know how to write methods. Alright, so in this same example, this is just a main method. I can decide that I want to write a method and say public public static void public void what should I call it? Addition result. So there's addition result. If you look here, you see there's addition result, there's subtraction, there's division. I can decide to create 4 methods for each of the operations. Alright, so you creating 4 methods, that is not code optimized. However, because we are just trying to show how the operators work, we'll try to create different methods for it. So we have alright, so we want to say okay, so we want to create a method. I don't want to use this example, so I'm kind of trying to use are we complete now? Looks like somebody just joined. Okay. So if I want to do an addition operator, I can say of course your method we take in. So we said methods that take in parameters. So we've executed all of this, but because we want to show the creation of methods that take in parameters, we will show the methods, like we will show the addition method, subtraction method, division method, and the multiplication method. Okay, so what do we need to do in addition? We need to add a to b, right? So we'll say in a comma in b. Okay, so in a comma in b, so we already assigned values to int a comma int b, right? We say int a is 12, int b is 2. So how then do you now, for you to be able to can then say, okay, so what am I printing? I am printing I am printing a plus b. Let's see what this will give us. However, the method is not yet used, but did it give us anything? No, it did not give us anything. Why? Because we have not used this. All right, is somebody following? Do you recall how we did this last week? How we created methods last week? Okay, this is it. This is it. Okay, these were the methods we created last week. So hello, is somebody there? Okay, so I can say I can also do this. I can say instead of this line, return word public void, since it is not static, public void return int story plus okay. However, this is not what I'm looking for. Okay, we'll come back to this. Okay, so addition method, subtraction method, multiplication method, can call this one should we call this one modulus result. Modulus result will be what? A mod b. Then you come here and say division, subtraction, division, I don't know. Okay, so okay. Okay, let's continue. I think one more. So we have addition, method, modulus method, division method, and multiplication. Alright, so this is to show that you can actually create methods for each of these operations and it will take in parameters. Now, this main method will change a little bit. Because for you to be able to make use of these methods here, right, it means that we have to change your main method here such that it will be able to, your other methods will be able to read values, alright, from what you have initialized here, alright, from the variables and assignment there. If you don't do that, you will not be able to make use of this method. As you can see, see no usage, no usage, no usage. Alright, so I will do something here. Before doing that, let's do this. Okay, so multiplication, you already know how that will look like. Did you do multiplication here? Oh, we did not. We know the multiplication here. We can still do it. Okay, so let's do multiplication. Let's say static int int equals to b multiplied by a. Okay, b by default, if you multiply b by a, what do you have? 12 multiplied by 2 is what? 24. Okay, so we have you can call it a multiply by b because it's different method. Okay, so we have this, all right, and we have your main methods. So what do we do? What do we do to ensure that these other methods that we have written in here, all right, gets executed? All right, can someone tell me? We talked about this last week, if you remember. Okay, if you recall, just tell me anything you recall. Hello? Yes, I can hear you. Okay. 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 What's the question? Okay. 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 Mm. 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 Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The system output can be in any method. It can be your main method, can be in other methods. I didn't hear you from there. Oh, you are trailing off. Yeah, I can hear you now. Mm. No. It's not when you use the word void that you have a method. Okay, it's just the way you construct your methods. I'm not talking about constructor here. Oh. I mean, it's just the way, the formatting of how you write your methods. It's just like you start with access modifier, public or private, and then you say void. So void is talking about the return type. We talked about return type last week. Void is saying that you are not returning any value. You can decide to say I want it to return integer value and say public or private int. Alright, you can decide to say I want it to return a boolean or a string. So you can say public boolean, so it's a kind of return type, let me put it that way. So your void is a return type. Okay, so what makes it different from the main method now? That's what we should say. What makes this method different from the main method is that you do not include a main. Alright, you do not include a main. From these aspects, this is what differentiates it from the main method. This part will not be in that method, then you have a method. By the way, this is a main method here, and this is just a method. Alright, exactly. Hello, are you there? Hello? Is anybody there? Can you hear me? Hello? Is someone there? Oh, looks like everybody has trailed off. Is it my network? Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Is someone saying something? Okay, oh, great. Okay, so I was trying to explain to Tokwe that she got everything she has explained right, and that in main method we have main string args blah blah blah, and that's the only thing that differentiates it with other methods in any program. Okay, so we have this. All right, this is what makes it a main method. All right, so I put a return type here. Okay, okay, so I guess I know where she's been getting confusion from. All right, can you hear me? Is she there? I want to explain this part. Okay, so I think I get where you're getting the confusion from. We said void does not have a return type, and yet this place has a return type. Is somebody there? Okay, so we said void does not have a return type, yet this have a return type. So what do? I will remove this and leave it just like this. Then for this method in particular to even um to even get any of, or to even get any values from the memory, to even get, to be able to access any of these declared variables here, you know then it means that I have to instantiate my class. All right, we talked about instantiation last week. All right, so inside my main class here, inside my main method here, I'm going to look for my class name. What is my class name here? Data operations, right? That is my class name. I will say data operations. Data operations, give it a value, maybe um, data op, okay, equals to new, okay. What did we call this last week, if you still remember? We need to be reviewing. I think it's because the video for last week was not available. Okay, let me go to my PowerPoint. I highlighted it somewhere in my PowerPoint. It's not there. Okay. 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 Um, I will check for it later. I'll check for it later. Okay. So I know I mentioned it at some point last week. Okay. Yeah. Part of what you asked, right? So part of what you ask, I will give us like 2 minutes to go through this my page here. So I think part of the question you ask is on this page, talking about argument, about the function name, about the return type, about the modifier, about the scope specifier, which is like the access modifier. The access modifier is talking about your public, your private, protected, default, and so on. But the popular ones are the public and the private. Then we talked about the static, we talked about the return type, we talked about the function name, which is like your class name. We talk about the argument, which is the class name or your method name. When you're talking about the function name, you are talking about something like this. Talking about this, right? That's the name you give to it. Then you talk about the argument, which is like the parameters you pass into them, into the methods, like the one we were working on here recently. This one's I passed in here, all right. Then we talked about um, when a function is called from main method, right, address is stored on top of the stack. Those ones are data structures which you may not understand. All right, so we'll just, because I'm trying to ensure that this is just a beginner class and we don't get confused at all. So I'm not going to go as in depth as to talking about data structure. However, we just need to focus on what is object, what is function, what are variables, how do you write your methods, then your methods, do they take in a return type, that is the argument or parameters, and then how do you write your main method, all right, then how do you reference your object, all right, then how do you execute or call your classes, right? So that is how everything we just need to know. That's everything we just need to know. Now, I was talking about something that if you not do something in your main method, you might not be able to access any of the methods you put here. Now I have methods here that are useless, no usages, no usages, no usages. If you execute them, nothing will run here, like nothing will get executed here. Okay, so at the end of the day, you have to do something in your main method that will ensure that all of this will get implemented. Now that is what I wanted to explain. So I wanted to explain that in your main method, right, you have to instantiate your class. So we have data operations, data op, you give it any name, equals to new. That is how you do it. Alright, I think I explained this last week when I was talking about constructors. Alright, now what else do you do? Then you now make use of this and call your method. Okay, so I will come here and say data ops, data ops, okay. Okay, so no, not in here, sorry, it is also still here because I can see the red. Okay, so I will say data ops dot. Now you can see the list of all my methods here. I have addition result that I wrote, I have the division results that I wrote. So all of this now. Okay, so if I do this and I don't give it any return type and I execute this, you can see that I have one usage new. By the way, others are not used yet. Why? Because I've only called I know these terms can be confusing but the most important thing is for you to understand how it works while you go ahead and read books or read more on how Java operates. All right, so we have data ops dot addition results. All right, meaning that I'm calling method addition result from the main method. If I don't call it from the main method, there is no way addition result is going to get executed, right? So I will come here and let me just run it again and see if um ah can you see it's got executed. Why? Because I have addition result. I asked you to add a and b and print it out, so I have 14. All right, now talking about taking in parameters, so I can make this public. Okay, what error am I getting? Return void, return void, return void. Okay, let's see what we have. Remember to call it here, remember to call it here. What is it I'm trying to call? I'm trying to call modulus result. So I will say modulus results. So okay, I get that now. Okay, so it means that I come to my main method to say int a. What is int a? Int a is, I can make it 14 and say int b is 6. Okay, I will explain that part. Okay, so I did modulus. So I make this modulus. So it means that, I said void is what is a kind of return type, right? So it will look at the arguments that you take in, all right, and then it will decide the type of value you should return, right? Now I asked it to take in integer a and integer b, and we already assigned values of integer a and integer b as 12 and 2. However, when I got to the main method, I override it. I decided that I don't want 12 and I don't want 2. Alright, and I said, okay, instead of 12 and 2, make it 14 and 6. Alright, ensuring that the values of a and b that were initially declared becomes void. Alright, and at the end of the day, I gave it my own value. I gave it value 14 and 16. 14 and 6. So 14 and 6 represent what? A. So 14 is A, 6 is B, So when you now say 14 modulus 6, means that 14 divided by 6 remainder what? Alright, so it's your remainder. So if you divide 14 by 6, what do you have? The remainder of it, of course, is 2. Alright, so that is how we got to here. Now you discover that the method I used here is different from the method I used here. Here I didn't pass in parameter. I asked it to make use of the initially declared value. What? Initially declared value 12 and 2 here. But when I got here, I decided that I needed new values, right? Alright, so I then ask it to take in parameters a and b, and I then enter the new values for parameters a and b. Alright, now for the other methods here, division method, so I can just follow the one I did for addition. So I will remove this and ask it to make use of those ones. Alright, while I call the method in the main class. Please, I need us to just don't do anything, just watch and listen. So I have data ops dot. This part gets people confused a lot, but if you are working with if you start testing, this is the part you need to understand more. Alright, so I have I'm calling division method now, division results method now. So I decided that I'm not going to change the values. It's going to just read the exact values in the memory, which is what 12 and 2. So if it is 12 and 2 and I ask it to divide, what should my result be, right? That is what, 12 divided by 2. Is it 12 divided by 2? Yes, 12 divided by 2, that should be 6. So let's run it. So we have 6. Now another one is the division. So we said division is what? A divided by b, which is 12 divided by 6. Oh, multiplication, sorry, we just did division. So we have multiplication, and we say a multiplied by b, which is what? 12 by 2 should be 24. So let's call it here and say data hubs dot this empty, because is it empty? Oh, it's not empty. Okay, so let me give it another value. I will call it 3. Okay, 3 comma 7. So 3 multiplied by 7 should be what? 21. Then if I run it here, then I have 21. Now this is what? Making use of methods, different methods, and taking in parameter or not even taking in parameter. This one is not taking in parameter. Let me add a comment to it. Return void no parameter. So when this is not taking parameter, what does it do? It makes use of values in its memory. Now the same thing is applicable to all these other ones, but the ones that are taking parameter, what happens to them? Okay, return values. Takes in, so it takes in two parameters and returns. Okay, now you understand what it means. So if I comment out all of these methods I recently created, let me try and comment them out and go back to the main method that we wrote earlier before we started writing different. Okay, so initially, if you recall, this was the only thing we had, and we got all the same results that you see on the screen. We had just this, and we ran it, and we got the same result. So we had modulus, division, addition, and subtraction. All right. So without writing different methods for it. All right. So we had that, and we got result. Now, what methods does for us is when we are dealing with large applications that have to do with different pages, different functions, then you have to start considering creating or writing different methods for them. That is why there is the need for methods. Otherwise, you just have one main method and you run your entire application on one main method. But of course, if one thing crash, everything crash. you know so but then that's why OOP was introduced, so that it becomes modularized. All right, so that we can separate and say, oh, this is just login function, this is just forget password function, okay, this is just um retrieve password, and so on. So it helps to actually modularize the entire application and make it manageable and reproducible. All right, now let's continue with my PowerPoint. So I just okay. mm, mm, yes, yes. mm, yes, exactly, exactly. That is why in testing. Okay, continue. Okay, so I was going to say that is why in testing we talk about page objects. So page object helps to, and in fact, that's why we are also using POM to manage our framework. Page object helps to modularize, or will I say, if you remember the concept of what's the name now? I've forgotten this concept of microservices. Talking about services and endpoints, you discover that it's kind of help to separate functions. This function is here, this other function is here, this service is there, this other service is there. Yeah, there is a base server that manages them, but if one function fails, it doesn't get to affect the other function, right? So we in programming, we always have a main method, and usually in test automation we have a main method in our base class. So once the base class is there, the rest of it is for you to just create classes and create a lot of methods within those classes using constructor, right? We talked about constructor last week. The truth is um you will keep encountering constructor as you continue with test automation. So you make use of constructor, you create different classes, create different methods within those classes. But of course, there is a base class somewhere with a main method somewhere that gets to drive all of those classes, right? So that is how that's why we run that. So when one test case fails, it doesn't affect other test cases. Each of them can stand on their own. However, except you are trying to run integration tests, When we get integration test, you discover how that is applicable to writing of codes too. So I think part of my syllabus is to talk about my syllabus is to cover. I think it's even the last set of things to talk about: component testing, integration testing, and then we close. So yeah, so when we get there, which is like towards the end of the class, we talk about how you write your components and how you also run integration testing in automation, right? So I think that is why we can't neglect knowing how to write methods and knowing how to call methods, instantiating them, and then referencing objects and so on. Yeah. So that's I think that's that. You're welcome. Oh, I'm not sharing it. Um, okay, let me share it. Entire screen. Okay, so I was talking about this. These are the last set of things we are doing, and then we will do the project automation of your web application. So those are the last sets, but we still have a long way to go. Um, we've talked about arithmetic operator now. And so I think the next set of things we'll be talking about are these unary operators, relational operators, logical operators, right? Okay. Now, okay, so this is where I stopped. We've talked about this. It's just that the examples here are different, but of course they are the same. Writing method, parameter arguments, and operators, division, modulus, and so on. So what happens when a function is invoked? What actually happens when you invoke a function? I have an example here. I say public class lesson 1. Okay, so you have your main method here. Okay, if you recall what I said earlier, when I said data operations, data up equals to new data operations. What that means is object reference. All right, object reference. That's what you are doing here. All right, so we said in OOP, when we get there, everything is seen in the angle of object. So when I say lesson 1 here, it is seen as an object. All right, even though it's a class name, it is seen as an object. All right, so when you want to make reference to this object, what do? You say lesson 1 equals to, so meaning that you can make use of this LSN outside of this main method. You can make use of it within the main method. All right, and you can reference other methods within the main method, just like I did here. I have a method public void my lesson. So public void my lesson is being referenced within the main method here. So I say main reference and objects. This is main reference and objects reference. Okay, so this is main reference and object, and this is just object reference. Okay, so object reference, main reference, and so on. So I've already explained how that looks like practically. Now, call by reference. Now I have talking about the same thing again. Here is a method. Whichever way you want to arrange your methods, you can decide to put other methods first before your main method. You can decide to write your main method first before writing other methods, whichever way you choose to arrange it. The most important thing is that the main method is there. Okay, so we have data being assigned here, assigned a value 20. All right, so in data was declared and then assigned value 20 to it. So you understand what it means to declare and to assign a value. All right, we also have public void function demo. So this is the method name function demo. All right, so what is being done here is that you're calling test within the method. So we call it call by reference. There is a data object declared out there, or a data variable declared out there, all right, outside of this method. And let's see if I can I copy. Okay, this is just an image. I put an image there so that I can okay, let me just continue the explanation. So I declared this in this example, we have value 20 assigned to data. So but this data, by the time you want to reference it in within another method, what do? You say dot, dot the data. So you then assign any value to it. Here they are trying to do a calculation, you know. Now this is a main method. We have call by reference C1. So what they are trying to do here is what, so that this method can be accessible within the main method, you have to like call the method, you have to call the function name here, which is like your class name. We have call by reference, give it any value, equals to new what, equals to new call by reference. Then you now make use of C1. Say C1 dot, dot what, the method name. Here we've already talked about it. So we say before calling the function, after calling the function, whichever way. This is how call by reference work. This is what we call by reference. So you are referencing your method or object within the main method. Now we have, okay, I think it's the arrangement. Now the next thing we are doing is what, conditionals and logic. Conditionals and logic. So conditionals is talking about, in conditional, what we mean by conditionals is that there are sets of criteria, or there are set of conditions to meet before the code is executed. Now for you to talk about conditionals, we talk about the conditional symbols, like the control symbols, like greater than, less than, equal to, greater than or equals to, less than or equal to, or, and so on. Now in this first statement here, we have a and b, then we have the not sign behind it. What this means is a and b, okay, we say a is the same as not a or not b, meaning that not any of the values of a or b. So you not it, this is just like mathematics, if you remember. So if you say not and you put a and b within it, what you are saying is that a must carry the not value, b must also carry the not value, right? Now we now have and there, meaning that both a and b are not, meaning that if you say a equals to 12, then it means not a equals to not 12. And if b equals to 2, not b equals to not 2, meaning that a is not 2, b is not 2. Now we also have a or b, not a or b. So what this means is that this a is not, b is not. It is the same as not a and not b. All right, we also have, so all of these things have their implication when you start executing them. All right, so now, but what is more important here are the conditional statements: if conditions, if else condition, else if, for loop, and switch, which we are going to consider in this class. So we have the if condition. Let's go back to, so if condition is saying that, I have a diagram here just to illustrate. So we call all of these things control structures or control logic. It is the reasoning behind the result you get when you ask your code to execute something. All right, they are set of conditions. All right, so you say start. So I say start by saying, okay class, this. Then what condition should you run? Oh, then you start declaring, oh, a equals to 2, b equals to whatever whatever. Now, in what situation should you run it? These are the condition. You now say if a is greater than 0 or if b is less than 0, do this. Alright, so you give it a condition and then you execute it and then it stops. So that is how control structure work. And for a for loop, it has its own special way it runs. So we start from initializing, then you put condition, then you put the end statement, then it execute and then it stops. Now, talking now about if else statement, we are saying if this condition, do this, else do this. That means that if the first condition is right, it gets to execute. But if it is not right, it goes to the next statement. So each line of the condition has statement. Now, I will come here. Okay. Okay. Yes, I can hear you. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Valid password, yes. Okay. Now, yes, yes. In fact, before you go there, we can also do something. You recall that, oh, my battery is getting flat here. Let me quickly plug it. Yes, you can use that logic when you are talking about um valid or invalid password. You can also use that logic when you are talking about browser. If this browser is available, run it through this browser. Else, if it is not available, run it through another browser. If you recall, we talked about open browser here. It's possible that we actually add a control logic here, an if else, especially I think if else we do. It's possible that we add an if else we add a maybe from here we do, no, from maybe after here you, not here, from after here we create a method browsers. So we now say if the browser is equal to Chrome, right? So if the browser is equal to Chrome, when we start writing the project, we will restructure our base class and restructure this place. So we will say if the browser is Chrome, then open Chrome. If Chrome is available, open Chrome. If Firefox is available, use Firefox. If Edge is available, else, So else, maybe browser is not available. There is no valid Chrome driver, or there's no valid web driver on your system, so it doesn't run or it fails it. Right, those are conditions. All right, so you can also say you can also use these conditions when you have multiple options. Maybe you want the system this you want the user to be able to select maybe multiple options, all these open box or drop down, multiple drop down, or what other thing, that's when you make use of this logic more. So you'll be encountering all of that when you are testing, and when you get to those areas, you consider your control logic, your control structures, right? So that is why if else especially, and for loop, honestly, if else, for loop, they are really the most important here. So we have if. Let's just go to our code. I want us to be able to at least finish up to do all of this, and then today, actually for loop is supposed to be after if else. So we'll start with if. Okay, you mean in real life, right? An example of for loop. So because for loop has a starting point, a condition, and an ending point, then you can mm, what example can I give us? Okay. Mm, I'm thinking about it, because if you are using grading system and you say if this user falls within this score, then the user is A. You can also use if else for that. But for loop is for I'm just looking for real life example. I will think about it. Hopefully I will get it before we get there. Okay. So let's do examples on our IntelliJ for if else. Okay. Um I've created a class called control structures. Alright. So I said using the same things we did the other time, we should say int a, I'll just declare it and say int b, and say if if a no, it's the thing with IntelliJ. Yes, is a thing with IntelliJ. Okay. So I can say 10. So if A is greater than B, what should we do? Now before I write that, I may write my main class. Small letter P, public static void and main string box. Okay. Okay. So what is happening here? There's an error here. Make something something static int. Okay. So that will suit. Okay, yeah. By the time you understand what each of them mean, then you know which to take. For example, now this static here is saying that absolutely the value of a here is static to 0. Absolutely, this one is also 10. It cannot be changed, so it's static. So by the time I'm using it here, is trying to tell me that you are not changing this value. This value here is reading as 0, and this value here is reading as 10. Okay. So if I say if A is greater than B, what should it do? Um so this is just a simple if else. Okay. I'm sorry, there's a system here, I don't want it to go off. Okay. So I have a if condition here. Normally, because I wrote my main method, I should have just said maybe execute. Maybe execute means system.out.print like this, print maybe a plus b or something. but I have a condition for you to print a plus b, or for my answer to be 10, or whatever my answer is. This is the condition: if a is greater than b, then print okay. If a is greater than b, what should it print? Then it should print print array, then print b, print array and show array b. Okay, else, okay, let me give this value as 11. Okay, so else, so what it will do first is it will read the first line, the first statement. The first statement is saying a is greater than b. It will read it and say, oh, is a actually greater than b? If it is greater than b, it will return the first thing it gets and nullify else. So meaning that your else does not matter. But if it reads this and discover that a is actually not greater than b, then it will jump to else and read else. Say system dot out dot line. I say this is what I want you to do. Now, I have this. In the actual sense, look at it very well. Is A greater than B? Yes, A is greater than B. So what should you do? You should read my first statement and make it true. Making it true means, okay, return this. So if I run this now, oh, I'm still running the old. Let's run it from here. Okay, so I say print B if A is greater than B. Now let me change the values of A and you will see what will happen. So I will change the value and say this is 9. So in the actual sense, is A greater than B? No. So what should you do? You should come to else, right? So I will run it here. See, 9. 9. Okay, so that is what we mean by if else. Now we also have the if condition, we have the if else condition, we have the else if condition. In fact, I think I have some examples here. Let me copy them and explain them one after the other. Let me copy and explain one. Don't forget that what this open and close does is to ensure that you execute any statement within the body. All right. So this is all the body for if else. So I want to comment it out. Oh no, this is not that's right. This is open close, and that's all. So this is not part of it. Okay, so I wanted to paste something, though I know that did I talk about S? So we have to talk about X. So let's say this is X and this is 1. So I'll say if X if x is greater than 0, this is an ordinary if statement. If x is greater than 0, just print s is positive. Okay, so I have if condition. Okay. My mouse. So okay, so I have if condition, then I have if else condition, then I have if else condition. This if else condition, if condition, if else condition, if x modulus 2 equals to 0, if x modulus 2 equals to 0, what is our x again? Can you recall? I said x is 1. So if you say 1 divided by 2, what is the remainder? Okay, I have not explained equal. Equal means that exactly equals to 0. Exactly equals to, that is, it is equivalent to this. It's different from triple equal and it's different from single equal. Alright, so we have double equal. We say x modulus 2, that is 1 divided by 2. If you divide 1 by 2, is 0.5, right? Is it exactly equals to 0? No. So what should you do? You should go to else. X is odd. Alright, we execute it. So let's just continue. The next one is supposed to be if else if. Okay. Now we are saying if x is greater than 0, what should you do? Print this out. Else if x is less than 0, print this out. Then else print this. Okay, so this is what we called if else if. Now in this situation, you execute this first. In this situation, you look at the whole of this and say okay, you look at this all first and say if x is less than 0, then x is positive, or it is. So it will execute this first and see if any of it is true. If any of it is true, it will return it and will not consider this. But if any of it is false, then it will consider it against this and then say okay, this is true. So let's see, if x is greater than 0, what is our x? 1. So our x1 is greater than 0, which is true. So is x less than 0? Is 1 less than 0? No. So 1 is not less than 0, it negates this. We will not even consider this at all. We will move straight to this and execute it. Now assume that x is actually less than 0. Let's assume that our x is minus 1. If our x is minus 1 here, that means you are saying minus 1 is less than 0. Is minus 1 actually less than 0? Yes. Yes, that is number line. Is minus 1 less than 0? Yes. Minus 1 is less than 0. Now, it will execute this and say x is negative. Now, since it executes this, it will no longer consider this. It will no longer consider this. We will execute it and you will see. let's see this one. This one is if else. If else. Okay. Else. Yes, else if. This is else if. This is else if. Okay. If else if. If else if else if else if else if. Oh, is it the same thing? I was supposed to do the other one. Okay, so if else if. Okay. It's not the same. This is if else. This is if else. If else. Nested if else. This is nested. Okay. So you see, if this, then else. Okay, now inside this else we have what? Okay, so this was what I wanted to explain instead of explaining this. Okay, now I think I mixed these two and the other one together. So in nested, what we are saying is the whole of this statement will be seen as else. So you say if this condition is true, that is, if x is greater than 0, then s is positive. If it is this first condition that is true, or if it is else that is true, it will pick one of it and compare it against this first statement. So when you compare it against this first statement, it will then pick just one value. That is different from this. As for this one here, it will read it line by line. That was the explanation. The explanation I gave earlier was meant for nested if else. Alright. So if else if, we read it line by line. Read the first one. Is the first condition greater than 0? If it's greater than 0, you say yes or no. If it is not, you say no. Move to the next one. Oh no. Then move to the next one. Oh yes. Then you mark it and return your answer. Return to the console. Now, as for this one, as for nested if else, what happens here is that it will read the second condition first, the condition inside the nest. So this if else is nested inside this one, inside this else. So it will read this if else first. So the value that is true here, it will pick it. If it is x that is greater than 0, it will say, oh, x is positive. Say, okay, this condition is true. It will pick it. It will then compare it against what? This condition. If you compare it against this condition and this s is positive is still true, then it will return true. But if it is not, then it will pick this condition. Now let's run it one after the other and see our results. So we declare s as what? As 1. Okay, so we said s, we assign 1 to x. So we will run this. Let's comment out all of this. It's almost 12. I want us to keep the time today. This we'll do for loop tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll start with okay. Now I have my so I have the first condition saying s is greater than 0. It says greater than 0, yes, it should return s is positive, right? Okay, so we have s is positive, right? S is positive. That is good, which is correct. This is just what we call the if condition. Now, the if else condition the if else condition, we have the modulus and saying that s modulus 2 is equal to 0. That is 1 divided by 2 equals to remainder 0. What exact remainder should it be? Is it not 0.5? Okay, so what do you think should be the answer here? Alright, so yes, it is odd because it is not exactly 0.5. Alright, so s mod 2 is not exactly 0 0. It is what? 0.5, meaning that and it does not remain 0. Yeah, 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. It does not remain 0, so you can actually say it is 0. It is odd and it is this value, so it jumps to the next line and execute it. Now we move over to else if. Else if else if else if. Now if condition x is greater than 0, then x is positive. We are saying that is 1 greater than 0? Yes, then it is positive. So what should it print here? X is positive. So let's run it and see what we have. X is positive, which is correct. Okay. Okay, so what should we give it? Should we make it 0? Okay, now we have 0. Let's do the if else again. Now we say 0 greater than 0. Is it true? No. It moves to the next one. Is 0 less than 0? Is it true? No. Then it moves to the next one. And then it executes this and say s is 0. So we have s is 0. So this is what? If else if. Line by line. It goes to first condition, check. Okay. Go to second condition, check. Okay, no. Then go to, so it will return just one statement. It will execute just one statement. Alright. We'll comment it out now and go to nested if else. So we have x is exactly 0. Of course, I think s is exactly, because we have assigned s to 0. So it's going to say x is 0. However, we will run it. It will come here and say, oh, x is greater than 0. Is it greater than 0? Say no. Then you come here. X, is it negative? No. Then you come here and okay, so we will run this. Then we change the value of x again and see what we get. Okay, so you see this one is still saying 0. Why? Because s is exactly 0. So what if we give x a negative value and say x is minus 1? We have done x is 1, we have done x is 0, now x is minus 1. If x is minus 1, then are we saying minus 1 is exactly 0? So this is not true. Now come to this our else if. Say, okay, is x greater than 0? Is minus 1 greater than 0? No, that is not true. Else, is minus 1 lesser than 0? Yes, of course it is lesser than 0. It is negative. So it's going to consider this first and then evaluate it against this condition. Now we are saying that x is negative. So is our x actually negative? That is minus something. Minus something equal to 0. So oh, this is wrong too. Then it eventually what? Pick this. Alright. Now we have s is negative because s is negative. X is minus 1. So that is how if else condition. That is how it works in Java. We also have any questions here? Any questions? I think I have one more example to show for if condition before we move over to loops. Okay, that's a Fibonacci. In Fibonacci series, there's something called Fibonacci series in mathematics that it adds the next number to the next number and forms a series. Okay, so let's say okay, I've commented all of that. Okay. So this one is creating a method called Fibonacci. Fibonacci, any way you pronounce it. Now, we don't have int n before now, do we? No. So what do we have now? What is this giving me? Check my error. Okay, so if this condition okay, I think I need to import something. Okay, public, I should put it inside main. Make main return int. Of course, main should return int. Okay. What other thing? Is this one? I don't know. Okay. So I think I'm supposed to I think is this. Okay. Public, private, static, and Fibonacci. And okay, I get what you're trying to say. No, that's not what I'm trying. Okay. Now, hold on. I think I'm supposed to import something. Okay. Give me 2 minutes. Just want to make sure that I include a method and then we close out. This should be maybe math or something. Okay. Okay. This method is very correct. Publish static in Fibonacci int n if n is equal. Okay, so remember we talk about or. So we are saying value of n is 1 or n is 2. So if n is 1 or if it is 2, return 1 and then return this formula. Alright, now I think the issue now comes up with our main method, because this will not just work. Remember, this is not being used yet. See, it is not highlighted, it's showing it is not bolded. All right, so you just know that this method is not recognized yet. So for you to be recognized, you go come to your main method. All right, so where is my main method here? This is my main method. Okay. Oh, I know why this thing is highlighting. We didn't copy it to the right part. Copy. Okay, this is supposed to be outside of the main method. Now you see it will work. Now it's supposed to be outside of what's this giving me? Yeah, that's the main method. Now the issue now lies with the main method. It's the main method that is carrying an error right now. Now there's no error here. There should not be any error here. Now in your main method, what do you think we should do? All right, so we have int n already declared. I can assign a value to it. Can assign a value to it. Okay, and say int n equals to what? What value am I giving it? Oh, we have 2 minutes left. Let me quickly rush. So int n equals to 5. So if I say my int n is 5, then I will say okay, then I will say if we perform this operation, what should be the result? Okay, what should be the result? I will say int my result equals to okay, int my result equals to okay. Now this should work now. Is this still having error? So if I say my result is this, ask it to return I. Because Hmm. Okay, that is so not it. I don't want to remove all of these things. This one's before it is making me. eh, I like to see. Yes, yes, it can be actually, but is something wrong here? Okay, return. I thought I was returning it already. Okay. Okay, share minimize, and that's true. That's brilliant. Okay, so we have the main method in my result equals to something something something. Now Fibonacci, it's a formula on its own. Return Fibonacci n minus 1 plus this plus Fibonacci n minus 2. This is the mathematical operation I want you to do. However, I have said that my now it should start with 5. Alright, so meaning that this should be like 5 minus 1 plus 5 minus 2. Now if 5 is equals to 1, okay, and 5 is equals to 2, return 1. Alright, now then after that return this value. Now this value is your n here. Okay, how else can I explain this for you to understand? Okay, so we are saying that if n is 1 or 2, it should return 1. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but however, our n is not 1 or 2. So what do you think it should return? It should return this. Alright? Now let's see if it will perform this mathematical operation. The Fibonacci number is, of course, it will display this first and then display this. Now the next thing it will display, which is what my result, is actually the result of this mathematics calculation here. Let me see if I'm even doing what is right. Public, what is it saying? Oh, are we wrong with our declaration? Okay, this is so not good. Is this my main class? Okay, why would it be int? That's not correct. Okay, so it's public static. What is that? Make main return int. Make main return int, and but it will not be int. Okay, something is not correct here. However, something is not correct here. Okay. I think I'm right now. Please let me look at it very well. What do you think is not right here? Okay. Why is this thing changing back to int? It should be this, and oh, let me remove this. There's no need for this anymore. Because I already did it here on this line. Okay, so I don't need this too, I think. And then I have it here. Okay, so what is it returning? It's returning the Fibonacci number is 5. That means you did not use this formula. Okay. Yes. I think. Um. Mm, mm, mm. Okay. Okay. I should have said return. Okay. What if I bring this? Which one? Oh, okay. This will not work. Okay, so we are saying that what is that? Um, it has returned already now. Okay, so we are saying that without this mathematics here, if n is equal to 1 or n is not equal to 2, then it should return once, else return, maybe because this does not have else, maybe that's why the thing is missing. Else return n. Okay, so this one is correct. Why? Because n is neither 1 or 2, so it cannot return 1, but it will return 5. However, if we ask it to return this, I wanted it to calculate this formula. I wanted it to calculate this formula. That's why. But normally, assuming it is not calculating this formula, this value is correct, because n is not 1 and n is not 2, so it cannot return 1. It will jump to the next line and return the original value of n, which is 5. But if we are to say we want to calculate the formula Fibonacci n minus 1 plus n minus 2, then we will have 5 minus 1 plus 5 minus 2 add together 4 plus 3 7, right? So that is the one I'm trying to get now. Should I just say put it here? I'm thinking I should rather put it here. Okay, so if I say my result is this, then it will calculate the Fibonacci formula straight up. Will it do that? So we have 7 here. So this is what we have. This is what we have. I guess this is the end for today. We return. Okay, let's do that. So we are saying n is 2. So it has returned the Fibonacci number is 1. Alright, so we have done, I think we are done with if. I think we are done with if, else, else if, and so on. So tomorrow we are going to consider loop, the while loop, the for loop, no, the while loop, the do while loop, and the for loop. Then we will combine the loop with if else statement, and then we will close out for tomorrow. Why next week? If we have time next week, we might still do our race, but if not, we will do it next week. But majorly next week we'll be looking into OOP. Mostly next week we'll be looking into OOP. So if we can cover the whole of OOP next week, then upper week we'll start with selenium. We still have quite a lot to do. Now we'll start with selenium WebDriver, you know, and then the following week we will conclude on selenium, and then we will then have to do what's the name, a web application project. So that is all for today. Thank you for joining the class. See you in the next class. Oh wow, we have few people left in class, so it is well. Exactly, exactly, exactly. You're welcome. Okay. Platform. What's the fastest for me? Um, actually, okay. Maybe we should create an automation WhatsApp channel where we can be sending in. Yeah, not. It's just supposed to be five, but we are just four. We're supposed to be five. Mm.